to file for bankruptcy unless it gets bailout. Yet another liberal city is in major financial trouble. Wall Street Journal has the story of decline and financial distress coming out of Hartford, Connecticut, which says it will soon file for bankruptcy unless the government steps in with cash. Officials in Hartford told Connecticut's Democratic Governor Daniel Malloy that they're going to have to file for bankruptcy in 60 days if they don't get a bailout from the state government or a motion from the state legislature to increase funding. The city's deficit is close to $50 million. What is it about a liberal city racking up enormous debt? Not to mention liberal cities coming up with absolutely ridiculous ways to fight crime. Advertisement. In the letter to Malloy, signed by various city officials and Hartford's Democratic Mayor Luke Bronin, the situation was referred to as the greatest fiscal crisis in our city's history. Malloy's office said it's looking into the situation and taking steps to deal with it. We continue to hope to have a full budget adopted by October to mitigate the harm and avoid having towns or cities go through reorganization, his office said. Advertisement. Malloy is pretty busy with other things, too. Connecticut's finances are doing very poorly. It still hasn't passed a budget for this fiscal year and has a $3.5 billion spending gap. The state is running from an executive order signed by Malloy that cut vital funding to cities and towns across the Keystone State. Fun times. Connecticut's State House plans to vote on the budget by September 14, but the state's representatives still don't have an actual plan for how they will bail out the capital city of Hartford. It's also unknown if they have the votes to pass a bill. Recently, bankruptcies have rocked the left coast. San Bernardino and Stockton, California both went bankrupt in 2012. Hartford has been hit especially hard by the cost of healthcare and pensions. It owes about $180 million for debt service, health services, pensions and other costs this year. That adds up to half the city's budget if you don't count education. The city also wants the state legislature to make a new committee to deal with arguments with labor unions. Sounds like exactly the kind of situation a liberal city would get into, doesn't it? Mike Huckabee discovers easy way to shut down Joy Behar on live TV. Mike Huckabee and Sarah Huckabee Sanders walked into the lion's den recently by appearing on The View. It was a little awkward and, yes, it was a chance for conservatives to watch shrill liberal harpies get shut down repeatedly by the dynamic father-daughter duo. There were some big smackdowns, too, as we've reported. The co-hosts sprung a lot of traps to snag the proud papa and his daughter, but they just didn't work. Advertisement. Now Independent Journal Review has the story about Huckabee's devastating response to the idiotic Joy Behar when she asked what President Trump has ever done for women. Well, he's also empowered a lot of women. He's given my daughter an incredible opportunity, Huckabee said. Huckabee is the former governor of Arkansas and a Republican presidential candidate whose daughter Sarah Huckabee Sanders now serves as White House press secretary. Advertisement. Behar interjected that the fact Trump gave Sanders a prestigious job was merely anecdotal. Imagine if she would say that to someone whose daughter was given a job as Obama's press secretary. I don't think so. Huckabee ignored her pathetic rudeness and put her in her place, anyway. No, look at the women that he's hired not only in the White House but also the women that he's hired in the private sector, he said. For her part, Sanders said she's had nothing but respect from Trump. I've never felt anything but respected and empowered to do exactly what I'm there to do every day, and that is my job, she said. Why do you think liberals keep trying to push the idea that President Trump disrespects women? Maybe it is because deep down they know it is liberals who really hate women? Sebastian Gorka finishes off what's left of the carcass that is Paul Ryan's political career. Paul Ryan has made a real mess of himself and his political career. He's been stabbing President Trump in the back ever since Trump took office, and it's starting to catch up to him. Now The Blaze is reporting on a hilarious takedown of Paul Ryan by Trump's former advisor Sebastian Gorka. Gorka is a pit bull and he's not afraid to bite rhinos and fake news right where it hurts. referring to a brutal rant against Paul Ryan given yesterday by Lou Dobbs of Fox News. Gorka signaled his support for President Trump's agreement to a debt ceiling deal with the Democrats. The deal allows the government to remain funded until this December and makes sure all necessary relief funding will get to the victims of Hurricane Harvey. Gorka reposted Dobbs' rant, saying Dobbs is one of the few who gets the significance of what Trump did by doing the debt ceiling deal. In his remarks, Dobbs says that the action by Trump has left Ryan completely obsolete and is the death of a rhino and the permanent end of the electability of any rhino in the future. Advertisement: we're talking about Speaker Paul Ryan, and his obsequious deference to corporate lobbyists and unbridled hostility toward President Trump, Dobbs said. The president not only took Ryan to the woodshed but eliminated any need for any Republican to ever pretend again that Ryan is a real Republican in any way. Or that any rhino has a political future after Mr. Trump simply bootless the hapless fool out of the way of those trying to get the nation's business done. Ouch. Dobbs went on to bash Ryan's abstinence and subversion of President Trump and said Ryan is working against the interests of the country. For his part, Gorka has also had enough of the fake news media, which has been reporting that his resignation was actually him being kicked aside by the White House. Gorka said it was nothing of the kind and he intends to keep fighting to fulfill President Trump's vision from his new role at Breitbart News. Watch the original Red Hot Dobbs clip here. President Trump gives military order North Korea's brutal little dictator fears most. President Trump gives military order for the U.S. forces to eliminate any missile that is launched from North Korea. Especially the ones that are moving towards the U.S., Hawaii, and Guam. Sources close to the president's national security team have divulged that the order was given due to the missile firing by North Korea last month that was aimed at Guam. Guam is a U.S. territory and holds Anderson AFB to maintain a presence to make it to Korea without needing a refuel. Advertisement: the threat provoked the president, one source inside the White House said. Communist regime is now saying that they can put the nuke on their intercontinental missiles. The ICBMs are powerful and now they are finally caught up with 1940s U.S. technology. This week, South Korean intelligence sources said the North was moving an ICBM in an apparent preparation for another test launch over the northern Pacific and possibly Japan. Advertisement: the president is now considering a shoot-down order for any North Korean missile that would be launched at Japan or South Korea. Both Asian neighbors to North Korea are American allies. This is a clear exercise of self-defense, and there's no question we should do it, former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations John Bolton said. Bolton said U.S. allies South Korea and Japan are in jeopardy and said the United States must take steps to protect them under treaty obligations. President Trump gives military order after the constant provocations from North Korea after the explicit condemnation from the U.S. and the Western world. Russia even mobilized troops earlier this year. In August, President Trump ominously warned the North Koreans that continued threats will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. What do you think of the orders from Trump? Do you think that North Korea will learn? Lindsey Graham just gave James Comey the worst kind of bad news. Fox News is reporting on a story from Capitol Hill today that could have a big impact on the ongoing controversy surrounding former FBI Director James Comey. Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, who heads up a Senate Judiciary Subcommittee, said he wants Comey back on the stand to clear up some loose ends in the Hillary Clinton email debacle. This doesn't add up and I smell a rat here, Graham explained. Advertisement: last week Graham and his counterpart Chuck Grassley disclosed new details from the Comey case showing that he had already decided to clear Clinton before the investigation into her emails was over. This makes sense, since Comey is about as dirty as they come, and is an untrustworthy showboat of a man. Details of the subcommittee investigation show that Comey may have spoken very inaccurately under testimony. He needs to come back to committee, Graham said. Advertisement: issue number 1 for Comey is whether he had already decided to let Clinton off the hook before the FBI investigation was completed. Issue number 2 for Comey is whether it is true that the runway meeting between Bill Clinton and former AG Loretta Lynch was the real reason he got back into the investigation. Comey said it was the real reason under oath. However, according to Graham, the real reason may have been some email between the DNC and the Justice Department about the scope of the Clinton investigation. Obviously, that's a lot different than what Comey said under oath. James Comey is a real slippery fish. In July 2016, Comey recommended that charges not be brought against Clinton despite her extremely careless use of a private email server to handle classified national security matters. President Trump fired Comey in May of this year. What do you think should be done about Comey? Do you agree with Senator Graham on this one?